thought it'd be cool to do a quick video on different release aids. All of these I've used them for hunting, I've used them for shooting in the backyard. These are just gonna be my opinions on the pros and cons of each. I'm gonna start out with the Hinge Release. This is actually not this specific one, but a Hinge Release is what actually helped cure my target panic. I used to be a really bad trigger puncher and got a hinge, learned how to shoot it properly, and it really helped me learn and solidify that unanticipated release. So for me at that time, this thing was like a godsend because it finally, I was able to beat target panic. I was able to start putting great shots downrange without that urge to punch the trigger. And I was just getting some really consistent arrow flight. I used Hinge Release for an entire season. It was a Scott Longhorn Hunter. This is a sweet spot here, true ball. But I made 3 great shots on 3 great bucks, and I was just really happy with it. It's an awesome release. The pros are, it's really hard to punch. It teaches you the proper way to shoot a bow with an unanticipated release. You can be very consistent with it. Some people are even more accurate with it. The downside, in my opinion, in a hunting situation, I had a hard time staying consistent on shot timing, especially when I was changing angles. So like from a tree stand when I had, a steep angle, or, hunting from the ground, or, hunting out west or whatever, you're shooting at different angles, different body positions. Because the Hinge Release fires on rotation, by changing some of that stuff, changing your form, it can sometimes change the timing of the release. The release itself, the timing isn't changing, but it's your execution that's changing. And I didn't really like that in a hunting scenario. So I opted to stop using this. Even though I made 3 great shots on 3 great bucks, I opted to get out of this because I wanted a little more control. But it's an awesome release. There's several hunters out there, very successful hunters that live and die by this hinge, and they do awesome with it. Then we got the thumb button release, and this is kind of my tried and true, what I've used the last 10 years or so. This is called the Too Simple from Carter. And what I liked about this, it's a handheld, so it felt very similar to the Hinge. I like the anchor point of using my knuckles between my index finger and my middle finger and putting that right on the back of my jaw and then creating that V along my jawline. It's a very consistent anchor for me. I like that I can attach this to the D-loop, and when I'm up in the tree, I can just let it hang there. I got this little clip from Total Peep that allows you to kind of attach it to the string so it doesn't flop around too much. But I really liked having that there in the tree. When a deer comes out, I can range and then just grab the release. That was another negative about the Hinge. It's in your hand, it's in your pocket or on your wrist, and then you have to range and then hook up. And I didn't like that delay. So it was a nice, easy transition to the thumb button for me. I'm very consistent with it. I can come to anchor, and no matter what position I'm in, as soon as I decide to execute, I just start pulling, and I seem to get much better consistency in my shot timing with this. One of the plus sides, if you need to make this go a little quicker, obviously you can squeeze your thumb. I don't shoot it that way, but if you're in a pinch, quick shot, through a quick window and you need to make it go quicker, you do have that option. You can punch this just like an index finger release, so you have to really watch out for that. I say if you have a quick shot you need to make, just execute quicker by pulling through a little more aggressively. Pull, boom, and it'll go off a little quicker. But awesome release. Up to this point has been my go-to probably for the last 10 years. And then we have the index finger release, which is probably the cause of 99% of target panic out there. There are a lot of terrible index finger releases. Anything that has a lot of travel in it, where you can kind of pull down on that trigger and it moves. You know, a lot of times they'll have like a caliper release where you pull on that and the caliper's open, like with a spring. Those are really bad. Those cause a lot of like shot anticipation and can really be a catalyst for causing target panic. Anything that has a real hair trigger too, really easy to punch. You kind of know that once you touch it, it's gonna go off. So I stay away from those as well. This one is a Carter Quickie 2. I don't know if they still make it anymore. I know they make a Quickie 1, but I prefer this one. What's nice about these is it's a hook design, and it's on a sear. So meaning when you hook it to it and you pull it back, you can wrap your finger around that and it's not gonna go off. And there's no travel or anything. So if you start squeezing this thing, it's gonna build tension until a certain point, and then it breaks, just like a rifle trigger, a really nice rifle trigger. So what I like about it is I can wrap my finger around it and then still use my normal shot execution of pull, 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 pull until it goes off. The pros, obviously, it's attached to your wrist. It's always there, difficult to drop or lose. Pretty accurate. I'm as accurate with this as I am with any of the releases, especially if I keep my form good. Kind of keeps everything in line. Maybe even a little easier to get a consistent anchor. You know, I use this knuckle here right under my earlobe in that little divot there. You know, I shot a buck with this last year and made a great shot. I see this being a benefit, especially if you're going out west like elk hunting or something. I could see this being a pretty big advantage because with something like elk hunting, things can happen really fast. I mean, you could make a call and an elk is coming in quick and you might have to get your bow back immediately, or you're stuck and you can't move. You know, you could easily like hook this to the string with minimal movement, where something like a hinge or this, you know, you might have to pull it out of your pocket, hook it to the D-loop, and then you're ready to go. So, you know, you're crawling around, spot and stalk. There's a lot of benefits to having this on your release or on your wrist, ready to go. I've always done spot and stalk, everything with this, and I just kind of have it in my pocket. And you know, when I'm going in for a stalk, I hook it to my D-loop just like I did on when I showed you earlier, and snap it to the string, and then it's just right there. But there's always that risk that you could, you know, bump it and it falls off, or you drop it and you lose it. So I always have 2 of these with me if I'm hunting. And then even if I'm hunting with this, I have this in my pack. And these do shoot just about the same impact, even out to long distances. I mean, at 80 yards, you might get like an inch or 2 difference, but that's it. You know, at 40 yards, I can shoot them all in there in the same group. Which one do I recommend? I guess whatever one you shoot more consistently. I've been doing a lot of testing this spring, actually, and I shot 10 groups at a 2-inch circle at 40 yards, and I did 10 groups with the hinge, 10 groups with the thumb button, and 10 groups with the index. And what I noticed was I had the most hits inside the circle with this, barely. A very close second was my index. But what I noticed about my misses with the index, they were smaller. So I had some misses with this that were a little bigger. Nothing major. I mean, still plenty in the vitals, but you know, it might be 2 or 3 inches outside that circle when I make a bad shot. With this one, a lot of my bad shots were just out. So even though I was 2 or 3 shots less in the circle with the index, my misses were a little smaller, which I like, you know, more consistent. And then my hinge actually came in 3rd place. I had some really high scores with my hinge, and then I had some that weren't so high. So, and that could be due to just not shooting the hinge consistently. I think if you stuck with the hinge 100%, you're gonna be just as accurate, just as comfortable with it. So, I don't know, that's kind of my thoughts on the 3 different release types. You also got a tension release, which I don't use, but I do think is a great learning tool for learning that back tension pull through method. So something to look at if you're thinking about changing your shot execution, trying to build that kind of that back tension pull through method. Those tension releases are a great one to look at.